Tēnā tātou katoa, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou. Ko Waio, ko Ngāti Rangi Nui, Ngāti Rangi Raukawa me Ngāti Haua, ko Emma Waimari Rawson-Te Patu tōku ingoa. So hello everybody, my name is Emma Waimari Rawson-Te Patu. I am, among many things, the President of the World Federation of Public Health Associations. I'm also a member of the Steering Committee of the Planetary Health Alliance, an advisory group member of the Global Mental Health Action Network, and soon to be expert member of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. It's a very real pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Emma. We're here at the Climate Health Summit on the Gold Coast in Australia, part of your international roaming. You gave a beautiful, powerful, challenging keynote, talking about where people have space to act and where they must act. Could you talk about what were your main takeaways for people here?
Look, I think the main thing is that, first and foremost, Indigenous peoples have been on the earth millennia and have been the guardians of the planet for millennia. That means we know the solutions in the ways to look after the planet and also one another, because our societies are hugely reliant on us doing what we need to do on behalf of the person standing next to us and the communities around us. So for me, those are the major takeaways. Please listen to Indigenous peoples and Indigenous knowledges when thinking about climate and health. And actually the two are not separate, they are the same.
You talked about the work of the World Federation, and you gave a lovely shout out to Michael Moore, who was the former Australian head of it. You said the work they're doing has actually really started to understand the need to privilege Indigenous voices there, and it's doing strong work in decolonising. Can you talk a little about that?
Yes, certainly, and thank you for acknowledging Michael, because it was really through his stewardship and his acknowledgement that Indigenous voices needed to be heard and seen on the global stage that we're able to actually invest in that work with this association, but also to be able to seed work further into other organisations. And so the work that the Federation is doing is first and foremost acknowledging Indigenous people and the place that we hold, which means acknowledging the inequities that we face more than anyone else on the planet, and acknowledging its responsibilities and obligations to learning how to be better and different in terms of addressing public health issues when it comes to our populations first. That's really important, because if we do the right thing by Indigenous communities, we're only going to raise the health and well-being of all other communities on the planet. So the Federation has committed to a goal of systems change and decolonising public health, and actually using that language. That's really important.
There was a bit of chat in one of the breaks here today about how what's happening in the US at the moment under Trump and the approach to climate, as well as governance, democracy, etc., that it's making people lose hope for any change. You say no?
Yes, I do say no. I absolutely understand why it's extremely discouraging and it's extremely painful, and I have many colleagues in the United States who are really truly suffering. And it's not just the United States. I mean, you look at Gaza and you look at the Ukraine, there are many places around the world where there are so many incredible challenges that we feel like we can't tackle. But I'm also in the really fortunate position, and I'll use the word fortunate, that I've been to many places around the world just this year alone, which means I've been able to engage in conversations with many communities of people like this one that I'm with today, who are all really well placed to be influential over what happens at that sort of medium tier level, maybe not so much at the government level, but also at the government level. So it's about how we come together more, connect more, and share more the stories of what is working, so that we can feel that hope rise and feel the wave of change continue to happen.
Can you give examples of what people can do? You showed some great slides, really, that had some important call-outs. Can you sort of summarise them or explore them?
Sure. I guess one of the slides I have is called Decolonising 101, and some of the most important things around what it means to lean into that action is first to acknowledge that this is something that needs to happen. And that requires listening. Often people are too busy wanting to respond to the things you're talking about, rather than really listening to what you have to say and letting it sink in. And when it comes to Indigenous issues, that is truly key, because we often are sharing great wisdom, great knowledge, great gifts, and they often fall on deaf ears, as we describe it. So listening is really important, and being authentic in everything you do, I think, is another key point. You know, if we can really investigate and reflect on who we are and how we're practicing what we do, whether it be in our daily lives or in our professional lives, then if we're thinking about, am I being really authentic in the things that I'm choosing to do, then we might be better placed to making better decisions.
There's still hope, uncertainty around whether Australia and the Pacific will co-host the next scheduled COP. Is that important to be here, and who needs to step up in order to make this region actually deserve it?
Yeah, I've got goosebumps actually. It's incredibly important. I think this, you know, the global, I call it the global south or the Western Pacific, is often left out of a lot of the conversations that are going on all the time. And when I say left out, not included, but a lot of the voices that need to be there can't afford to be there. And so having COP31 here is centrally important to ensuring that many of those most affected by what's going on with the global climate crisis are going to be able to actually participate, and participate genuinely. And so the responsibility falls on the governments who will be responsible for hosting or want to host, to make sure that they press as much as they can on ensuring that it comes here, and not only that there are opportunities across borders to share the responsibility for that hosting.
Speaking of another country that's nearby, your home country, last time we spoke was, I think, 2 years ago. The new government, the new Conservative government, had just come in. There was some hope they wouldn't go ahead with repealing the Maori Health Authority they have, and they've done a lot else. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about what's happening there at the moment?
Look, it's extremely sad, and I put it that way. It's extremely sad to see what these people are choosing to do. It's unfortunate because New Zealand has been looked to as a beacon in many ways for many things over many years. I hope that this is a learning exercise, not just for those people that are currently doing the things that are taking away from human rights in New Zealand, but also for New Zealanders to really think about how this happens. And a big part of how this happens is because people don't get out and vote. And voting is a public health issue. So if people will get out and vote, really think about what it is they want to see and how they want to see New Zealand in the future, that is going to be centrally important to making sure that we don't have another government like this one.
On a personal level, hope I'm not telling tales out of school, but you're not home very much these days with this role. What do you love about it, and what would you like to see happen in your time?
Oh, what do I love about it? I love so much about it. I love meeting all the people that I get to meet is really the most important thing to me, because it's the relationships that you get to have with people that then seed the opportunities to create things that make change happen. And there are so many amazing people doing amazing work. And also being an Indigenous woman and knowing the situation that exists, not just for Māori and not just for First Nations in Australia, but across the planet, and I think about the Amazon, and also Indigenous peoples who can't even acknowledge themselves. It's a really important role to me in my heart and it makes my heart feel full to be able to have these conversations in many places where a lot of other Indigenous people can't go. And I say that because being from New Zealand, I have this relative place of privilege as an Indigenous person to be safe and to go and say things that may seem ordinary to other people, but they aren't ordinary to a lot of people who are living in fear and unsafety. And for example, in the Amazon, water protectors in the Amazon are going missing, very frequently. I mean, I think it's 15 just this year alone. So that's, when we talk about love, it's more like passion for the cause, but also love for knowing that I lean into my own personal strengths of connection and relationship, which I really enjoy.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to a public health audience?
Yeah, look, again, I think the last point that I made is the most important thing in the world that the world is really screaming out for. And I say that because Everywhere I go, people are saying the same thing. Relationships are really important. Being connected is really important. And talking about it's one thing, but doing it is another. And I think that the more time we spend on having relationships with people, you know, picking up the phone instead of sending an email, it's a really simple thing to do, but it's amazing how frightened people are of doing it these days. So having relationships, be connected, spend time on that, the rest will follow.
Thank you so much, Emma.